Next, we'll go to item 7, which is it's an actionable item. It's a preschool entry and exit profile, PEEP. We'll ask Deputy Superintendent Patty Norman to come forward, and it just seems like I got rid of all those PEEPs from Easter. I can't get that out of my head. I handed them to every grandkid that would take them. Some people like them really hard, and I don't know. They're glad they're gone, but I'm glad this is back. So, before I get a motion, is there any questions or ask for a motion on this? Any questions? Did you want to give a little background on this?
If possible, yeah.
Patty? Thank
you.
I'm
Deputy Superintendent Patty Norman of Student Achievement. Just giving a little bit of background on this. The background on this actually goes back to 2017 when the state statute required a KEEP assessment. And the KEEP assessment is the kindergarten entry and exit profile. And then we move on to 2018, and during that session there was HB 380, the School Reading Initiative Amendments, and this required the State Board of Education to develop a school readiness assessment, which was the PEEP assessment. So that is the preschool entry and exit profile. So these assessments must align with the kindergarten entry and exit assessment. So participating LEAs and private providers were required to administer the school reading assessment. USB staff developed the preschool entry and exit profile as the state's school readiness assessment. So now if we go to 2019 and the purpose of meeting and presenting this to the board today, in 2019, SB 166, the school readiness amendments, required the board to do two things, or it established two things. The first of these is it expanded the eligible participants required to administer the assessment. So it is now required by any LEA or public preschool provider who chooses to participate in either the high quality school readiness program or the grant, or the high quality school readiness expansion grant. So the expansion then is the addition of the HQSRE, which expands the eligible participants. So second, it more clearly defined what the assessment needs to measure, which includes literacy, numeracy, and lifelong learning practices. So staff are seeking the board's approval for the PEEP assessment, which is actually the assessment which is included in the manual.
What's that?
I can fill out the motion and see if
okay, well,
it's correct. Is that correct?
So it would be seeking a motion to approve
Yes.
the preschool entry and exit profile test administration manual. So I'm seeking a motion for that too, if somebody wants, or do we have a question?
So I'm thinking on the very last part, it's the assessment that we're seeking approval of. The assessment is included with the teacher manual, but it's actually the assessment is what we're seeking approval of.
Okay, so there's not a motion. Does anyone that had their lights on want to make that motion so we can get something on the table? Okay. Vice Chair Brittany Cummins?
I move that motion forward.
Okay, we have a second. Discussion to the motion. Board Member Lisa Cummins.
I'm going to vote no on this specifically because I think we're expanding our I think we're overstepping our boundaries on what jurisdiction we have. I think we're putting too much pressure on these kids through legislative means and purposes and intent, and I wish there was more play and less pressure on reading and numeracy. Let these kids play. So I'm going to say no.
Board Member Janet Cannon.
Yes, I have a question. The sentence in our explanation background is a little confusing to me. The assessment is now required by any LEA or public preschool provider who chooses to participate in the Becoming Quality grants or the expansion grants. So I don't know what the Becoming Quality grants means.
So that's
it's a little confused. So could you tell us exactly
Absolutely.
how this happens and what kind of money is involved here and the source of the money and so forth?
Sure. So it comes out of SB 166 in past session. There's $6 million in general funds going into this program. So they're not actually education funds, they're general funds for this program. And there's multiple pathways in that particular project, but the two pathways that this assessment is for is LEAs or private providers who want to get to a high quality program. They can apply for funds to help them mitigate the areas that they're not high quality in that have been defined in legislation. The other one is expansion LEAs or private providers who have already been deemed high quality to expand and offer their services to more students than they could possibly provide based on their own local dollars. So there's two grant programs, and as part of participating in those grants, the assessment is required. Thank you.
Okay. Board Member Jenny Earl.
Yeah, could you tell us the time requirement for each of these assessments, frequency, and just the commitment, both on the child and the others that are, yeah.
Absolutely. So there it goes. Absolutely. The time requirement is about 15 to 20 minutes. It's one-on-one with the student. It's given at the beginning of the year with the entry assessment, and then the exit assessment is given at the end of the year. So two administrations.
Okay, just 2 times?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and similar to Board Member Cummins, the concern is that the focus on academics versus play at this age. Anyways, that I have those same concerns that we're driving kids in a direction instead of allowing to be developmentally appropriate, which learning about numbers and letters is appropriate, but that primary focus is the concern that where other things may be set aside that are equally as important, if not more important at that age. So that's my comments.
Board Member Sean Newell.
Thank you. My question would be, and I just need a little clarity on this, what were the baseline metrics that are in place where the system was developed?
So the question is around, but not
Might as well
there we
leave
go.
that on while we're
Let me
done.
clarify your question to make sure I answer the right thing. Is this how we went about developing the items for the assessment, like how that?
Yeah, where those metrics are
Okay.
and how
Perfect.
you decided to.
So in
formulate
terms
this.
of how we chose the items, we had developed the kindergarten assessment first. The legislation requires that we use the KEEP entry as the exit for the preschool. So the way we built KEEP was around what are the most predictive indicators in this kind of age space for literacy and numeracy that predict later academic achievement. So all of the items are based on predictable skills that have the most predictive validity for predicting outcomes like in 3rd grade. So we really went to the research around what are those top, because we wanted to limit the test in terms of time, but what are those most valuable pieces for predicting future academic achievement? And those are how the items were developed and built around. So things like letter name, fluency, highly predictive, not really a taught skill. We don't really worry as much. We want them to know the sounds, but it's a very highly predictive skill of kids coming into kindergarten or ending preschool in this case, that if they know their letter names, they'll be more likely to be a reader more quickly than their peers who don't. So it's really going back to the research around predictive validity of certain skills and their ability to predict future outcomes for students. Does that help? Okay. I was like, I hope that was the question.
And we've got several board members in the queue, and just a reminder of the board members that allow everyone to have a chance to speak once before we repeat, but before we have a second chance for comment. Board Member Cindy Davis.
I should remember the background on this, but is the reason that this is through general funds and not education funds is because they added in the private providers? Is that what happened? And then also, my question is, based on code, if we didn't use this, we would have to use something else, right? We have to put into place one of these assessments.
Yeah,
Okay.
so first question, yes, general funds were used because we didn't want to get into the battle around public education and private dollars, and so keeping it in general funds allows for both entities to participate without getting into a messy space. And then, yes, we are required to provide an assessment. It is required that we use KEEP entry as the exit. What the PEEP entry looks like in terms of the entry assessment could have, but it still needs to include the same components we have right now, which is literacy, numeracy, and those lifelong learning practices. All of that's in legislation. So not a whole lot of flexibility. Let me be transparent about that. We are required to produce something.
Do you have a follow-up?
Okay, yeah, just a quick follow-up. Is this mostly surrounding Upstart?
No, this is more, Upstart won't actually use this
Not at
particular
all.
piece. No.
Okay, that's fine. That's what I was wondering. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, Board Member Lisa Cummins?
Thank you, Chair. Just two questions. One, does it include in the entry part of it an SEL component, like the KEEP does with the exit? And second just flew by me, but answer that.
Oh, sorry.
Like,
I'm kind of keeping
I'm
track of
learning
some
on the
other
red bike.
things. You might as well just leave that on until
I
we're
think
done.
so. So in terms of the lifelong learning practices, this, because we have to use KEEP entry for the PEEP exit, we did keep those same skills from KEEP entry in the social emotional section as the lifelong learning practices in the PEEP.
Okay. She had another question.
If I may have a follow-up. And does that, and will that PEEP component for the SEL stay at the local level and not carry over to the state as the current kindergarten? And I understand I understand that's going to be talked about in the law and licensing tomorrow, but because I'm worried about third-party entities having access to that data, and how far does that data go?
Yeah, so thank you. I'm Sydney Carter, Assessment Development Coordinator. So we worked with Jennifer to develop the assessment. But Board Member Cummins, to your question of will we collect that data, so it's because it was part of the legislation to include that in the assessment, we are incorporating that in with our data collection for the PEEP. Mm-hmm. And as far as who has access to that, it's us at the state level and then the local entities. So there may be private providers that are assessing their students using this because they received the grant funding. They would have access to their own data.
Okay, thank you.
Board Member Jenny Earl?
So 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds?
4-year-olds only.
4-year-olds only.
The 4-year-old
Okay.
program. They might be 5 in that time, but.
So we, under literacy and numeracy, is that what the focus was? That's what the law stated we had to have?
The law is literacy, numeracy, and lifelong learning practices.
And lifelong learning practices. So what do we have that falls under the lifelong learning practices built into the assessment?
So things like self-regulation, asking for help, those types of things.
Not colors or
no.
magic words? Nothing.
Those aren't highly predictive. So when we did the
Those
research,
aren't? Okay.
knowing your colors does not predict future academic achievement. Not saying you shouldn't learn your colors and not that our preschools wouldn't teach
so
color.
we just numbers, letters, and for a 4-year-old.
Like
okay.
Book, being able to look at a book and knowing which way is the front and how you turn the pages, things like that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, board members, the motion. Board Member Ellis.
I just wanted to express that the assessing that you're speaking of, when it was done on a teacher-student basis and not through these types of state-run tests, I didn't find as problematic as I do this. And so I just wanted to explain a little bit of why. I understand that our hands are tied and we have to do what the legislature passed, but that doesn't mean philosophically I have to agree with it or vote for it. So I agree that we are pushing academics far too young, in my opinion. And anyway, so I just want to explain a little bit why I can't support this.
Okay. Vice Chair Brittany Cummins.
I'm going to speak in favor of this motion. I don't see this assessment as an assessment of a child or as a curriculum for preschool. This is it's the opportunity that we have to assess is preschool a beneficial opportunity for students, yes or no? And so we use that information that we're getting. So here is our predictive indicators of success later on, but it doesn't encompass everything that they're going to learn in preschool. And they can learn these through play and many other ways that the preschool can implement it. But this is just, how do we take a few data points and recognize, is preschool valuable? Yes or no, is this preschool valuable? And so that's why I speak in favor of this motion.
Board Member Lear.
And I just have a brief question either to the chair or to these experts. Both the programs and the assessments are completely voluntary, are they not?
Okay. And the
Yes.
and the answer from the experts is
So just to be clear, parents, children could participate without the assessments. Is that right? They have to have the assessments?
Please, Patty, will you please explain?
So Chair Huntsman will have Sid.
Okay.
Yes, so the parents may choose to participate in the preschool, but if they participate in the preschool, then the preschool is receiving the grant funding, so they would participate in the assessment. Similar to KEEP. KEEP has the same rules. If they participate in receiving the grant money that's associated with the assessment, then they participate in the assessment.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Okay, the motion on the table is that the board approve the preschool entry and exit profile assessment. We'll take this to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, those on the line, let me just call you out. Laura, are you an aye?
Yeah.
Board Member Scott Hansen? Okay, those are the two that are on the line. Those opposed? Okay, the ayes I'll call out. We have on the line Board Member Belknap, online Board Member Scott Hansen. With the ayes, raise your hand that are here. Board Member Linda Hansen, Board Member Gravitt, Board Member Lear, Board Member Cannon, Board Member Newell, Board Member Davis, Board Member Nielsen, Vice Chair Brittany Cummins. Motion passes.